Good morning, YouTube, and welcome to the Reptile Barn. With the ball python breeding season upon us, it is time to talk about techniques, issues, and everything in between. So, ball pythons, like a lot of snakes, not all snakes by any means, but like many, are really winter and spring breeders, generally speaking, and summer and fall egg layers. So, I believe in Africa it corresponds more with it's okay, girly, with wet season and dry season, not so much cold and hot. But regardless, that seems to be what most people have the most success with. We've actually kind of gone away from that a little bit to more of a year-round concept where we just wait until the female is the right size and seems to be showing signs of cycling, and then we breed her. But for most people, it works better to just have a breeding season in the winter, right? So I'm not really going to talk about the year-round thing right now because we have other videos on that. I really just want to do an overview of the different things to consider when you're going to breed ball pythons, okay? The very first thing I want to talk about is size. For a female, the current rule of thumb is 1,500 grams. I've seen 1,300 grams and I've seen 1,800 grams. A couple of people are like 2,500 grams. But generally speaking, the vast majority of sources, however scientific or not they might be, are going to say 1,500 grams, okay? And then you can start breeding her. We don't say that. I'm just going to be honest. We do not say that. We don't have a specific size, although we've never bred a female less than 1,200 grams. We just aren't going to do that. To me, the size of the cloaca and this whole part of their body has to be able to pass eggs. And under a certain weight and size and girth, it just becomes scary, right? Now, why would we go below the recommended weight for a female? Is it because we just want
to rip as much money out of their bodies as we possibly can before they die?
No, obviously not, right? If that were the case, I'll be brutally honest with you, if that were the case, we would not spend thousands of dollars at the vet to save a normal ball python's life, okay? We just wouldn't do that. But we have done that because we do not place their intrinsic value in the same category with their financial value to us as breeders, okay? So if we thought that breeding a 1,200 gram female snake added any element of risk whatsoever on top of, breeding a ball python is just a risk in general. If it was going to increase her risk of egg binding specifically is what most people are concerned about, we would not do it. But I just simply don't believe people who say it has to be 1,500 grams. There's many reasons for that. One, we have other restrictions on when we will or will not breed a female. One of those is she must be eating incredibly strong when we begin breeding, introducing males, right? Because if she's going to go that year, she will go through an absolutely massive eating binge before she ovulates, okay? And at some point, she'll suddenly stop and then build those follicles up the rest of the way, ovulate, and then she's gonna lay eggs, whether they're fertile or not, she's gonna lay them, right? So if it's November and we have a 1,200 gram female and she's eating like crazy and she seems to be just in that mood of I gotta eat and pack on the weight because I might breed this year, well, we're gonna feed her like crazy and we are going to breed her. If she is 1 year old and has just grown that much, we won't breed her. But if she's 18 months to 2 years old, even 2.5, and she's 1,300 grams and she's showing that increased appetite heading into winter, yeah, we're absolutely going to breed her. Because by the time she goes to lay eggs, she could be 1,800 or 2,000 grams. Because she will have gone through this unbelievable amount of eating, right? Preparing her body for egg laying. For egg production in general, right? If she's eating really well, and we start introducing a male and she goes off food quickly, we stop. We just stop. And in our experience, that female never lays eggs that year. It's not like a rabbit where if you breed her, she's going to have babies, pretty much. The ball pythons, either consciously or subconsciously, they have far greater control. And if their body condition is not up to snuff, they just aren't going to lay. So it's not quite as concerning. We still have all these, these restrictions, right? All these rules that we abide by to make sure that we're doing our part to keep them safe, but they also play a huge part in keeping themselves safe. Males, their size, it's to us, in our experience, it's more about, are they sexually mature? Because you can throw in a 200-gram male if you want, but he's not going to do anything. And if he did, it's not going to impregnate the snake. It's not going to fertilize her eggs, right? But more concerning with a smaller end male, obviously 200 grams we've never done, we never will do, but we've done pretty small males before. I think as low as 400 grams, and he bred like crazy and was awesome. But we only bred him to one female, right? So he could go a month between breedings. He was barely breeding, but for the female it was plenty. She bred, locked up 5 or 6 times that winter, laid a beautiful clutch of like 8 eggs. So the point is, though, that little male never stopped eating. If he had, we'd have pulled him from the breeding program instantly, right? Because once a male stops eating, but his metabolism still seems to be needed to burn through, he needs energy, basically, because breeding takes a ton of energy. It doesn't look like it. Ball python breeding looks like it takes no energy, but it does. The males, believe it or not, can breed themselves to death. So if he stops eating, we immediately pull him. With our big males, we have a 2,000-gram desert ghost. Greg is just a monster. He stops eating, we don't even blink. We just keep weighing him, we're careful. But if he has only lost 3% of his body weight, it's not even a consideration, right? Because, he dropped down to 1,950 grams or whatever. It doesn't matter. If a male starts to lose, 8, 10% of their body weight, we'll consider stopping their breeding, right? We don't want them to become unhealthy in any way. But it's completely natural for these animals, for the males, to lose a lot of weight during the breeding season. A lot of animals are that way. They just aren't as interested in food. And as long as we keep it within reason, they're completely safe, right? So for males, it's not so much the weight, it's more the smaller end males we are very, very cautious with as far as their eating goes. And with the larger males, as long as we're weighing them regularly, we pretty much don't worry about it, right? So that was the longest segment of this video, was the size, because that's what everyone's so interested in. We're just, we want to do what's best for our animals, and we want to do what's best for our business, and if those things can both go hand in hand, that's the best case scenario, right? But we're never going to put our business's health over our animals' health. It's just not, I promise you, it will never happen. So what are some ways to get a first-time male, or maybe a male right at the beginning of the breeding season, to be more interested in breeding? There's a few things specifically. You can take sheds from much more mature and prepared males and other, real mature females, throw them in the female's tub where you're about to put this male in, spray them down so that they're a lot more flavorful, there's a lot more odor in the air, right? And sometimes the smell of those older, more mature ball pythons will start to get the male's juices flowing a little bit and get his interest up. You can take a mature male, this sounds gross, and it is gross, but you can do it, and you can invert his hemipenes, pop him, and rub those on the female that you want your new male to breed. That can really get a new male going. He smells a rival who's moving in on his girl, and he wants to breed her now, right? I've seen a lot of people do that. Or even take, this is weird, but I've seen people take the same male that seems to be not wanting to breed. I've seen people avert his own hemipenes, and if he's got any little tiny bits of sperm plugs, they rub that on the female. We haven't really tried that, but I've seen a lot of people do it. But the two big things. One, once you put the male in, spray them down, okay? I don't know why. I don't know if it spreads their odor or if they just like rain, but spray them down. They act like they don't like it. They kind of slither away from it and get mad at you. But it seems like we have more success with our copulations, with actually seeing locks, if we spray them once they're together. But if you ignore all of this advice and just do one thing, make it this one. Put them together anytime it rains or snows. Okay? Ignore your schedule, ignore their feeding schedule, ignore everything. If you really want locks when it's raining or snowing, and this is from our experience and many, many other breeders, we have drastically better success. Okay? So if you live in Phoenix, I'm sorry. You don't get as much rain and snow, any snow. But where we live, the fall and winter, there's a lot of precipitation, so it's perfect for us. Not all of our females are winter breeders, but most of them are, and it's much easier for us because we can pretty much just guarantee, hey, in a week or two there's gonna be snow, right, or rain, and we wait and we put every male in our whole lineup in with a female on that day, and we've had 100% success days on those days. 13 males are locked up in one day, which is awesome. And we've had days that are bright and sunny and 0 males lock up. I mean, it's a drastic difference. I wish we should chart it one of these years, and just the days that are, a nice low pressure system, lots of stormy weather, rain, precip of some kind, versus really sunny, clear skies kind of weather. And it's drastic. I mean, it's undeniable how much of an influence this has on your snakes. I have a theory, by the way. I know this video is going to be super long. I don't know if I'm even sorry about it. Liz doesn't want it to be because she has to edit this. But my theory is that in West Africa, the ball python is truly the bottom of the food chain. Every bird of prey, every mammal predator, larger snakes, just everything can eat a ball python. They're small, they're pathetic, they don't have good defenses, they're not fast, they are the bottom of the food chain. They want to breed when the least amount of predators are active, which is when it's pouring rain. So I really believe they've just evolved to come out and be vulnerable, because they're coming out of their tunnel, they're coming out of their little nook or cave or whatever, and they're very vulnerable at that time. It's safer to do that, to go seek out a mate, if it is pouring rain. Most of the hawks aren't flying, most of the wild dogs aren't prowling. Whatever is out there is less likely to be hunting when it's pouring rain. And so for the bottom of the food chain, they don't like getting rained on either, probably, but it's certainly preferable to getting eaten. That's just my theory. I have no science to back that up, so maybe someday we can do a study on that, but for now, that's what I'm going with because it sounds good. One thing I wanted to mention, if you're going to pair your snakes up, if the female is in shed, some breeders will tell you that you're going to have less success. We never have. We pair them up when the female is in shed all the time. We don't seem to see less success getting a lock. When the male is in shed, they virtually never lock for us. Maybe others have had a different experience, but for us, I don't think we've ever, so we don't even try anymore. The male's in shed, we just don't put them in. Even if it's raining, we still don't put them in. It just doesn't work. But if the female's in shed, a lot of breeders have said, oh, they're not going to, ours do like crazy. So at least give it a try, see if yours do. But when the male's in shed, it's hopeless. We've never had success with that. We have videos on our channel of putting a big box together and placing, 3 to 10 males in the box together. You see them get a little bit feisty with each other. They don't bite. They don't even really hiss. But they're all periscoping, where they raise a bunch of their body up off the ground and they're looking at each other. They'll twine their necks a little bit around each other. This is a natural behavior. This is not cruel. They're not hurting each other in any way. Okay, we would never promote something like that. But it is a way to convince them that, oh boy, it must be breeding season. All of these rivals are out and about, right? And so it gets their testosterone up. A little male on male rivalry in the animal kingdom is good. And it helps them just kind of get in the mood. You hear a lot of people talk about how reptiles are modal, meaning they have different modes. And once they're in a mode, it's kind of hard to get them out of it into a different mode. You know, a ball python, when they're on their eating mode, they're champions. They will eat anything. But if they get out of eating mode into, you know, shed or breeding mode, it can be hard to get them back into eating mode. And you want them during the breeding season, obviously, to be in breeding mode. So this is just one thing that we've done before. It should always be supervised. I've actually heard some people say that it can, in some instances, if you have a really young, not confident male, it can actually depress his hormones instead of raise them because he just sees all these bigger, stronger males everywhere. We've had success with it. This is one that you really should discuss, think about, maybe reach out to some other breeders, see what their experience has been before you just throw all your males together. We have done it many times and not had any problems ever, but it's something to think about. I just wanted to throw it out there as another technique. Last thing, I'm going to rapid fire a couple of these things. These are things to consider when you're making your plan of who you're going to breed. Females can retain sperm. Okay, if you breed a incomplete dominant male, so a pastel male, to a normal female, okay, say she doesn't go that year, right? The next year you breed a recessive, you breed a pied male to that normal female, and you're like, oh, every single baby's going to be het pied. This is great, I can guarantee to my buyers. Well, not necessarily, because unfortunately, it's not common, but it happens, she could retain sperm from that incomplete dominant gene male, whatever we said he was, a pastel or whatever, from the year before. So that gene is only going to pass on half the time. So and it's not even like the whole clutch is going to have to necessarily come from that retained sperm. So you might get 2 eggs. This really could happen. It has happened. You could get 2 of the 6 eggs that weren't fathered by the pied this year. So 4 of the eggs are het pieds. And you're expecting all 6 of them to be, but secretly 2 of those eggs got sired by the previous year's male, who's a pastel. If he doesn't happen to pass on the pastel gene, those babies are normals. They are not het pieds, they are normals. You go sell them as het pieds to somebody, they put in 2, 3, 4 years of work raising them up, and they go to breed them expecting to get visual pieds and get nothing. They're like, oh, well, it was het to het, maybe, it's got bad luck. They breed them again, they breed them again, they breed them again, and they got 3 or 4 years of normals out of this breeding. They're going to be very upset. And you're going to be like, I don't know what's wrong. They should be het pied. That was the only male I put in. Well, it's not. You put a male in the previous year, and you could have a real problem now. And this does happen, guys. It really does. So you have to be super knowledgeable about which genes and what is their mode of inheritance and what were last year's genes and what is their mode of inheritance, because all of those possibilities are on the table. Okay, I don't think she's going to really pull back from 2, 3, 4 years ago sperm to fertilize these eggs. I've never heard of that. Maybe it could happen, I'm not sure. But my point is, these guys' sperm is tough. It lasts in her body for a long time. So keep that in mind when you're planning your breedings, right? Backup males. Especially with our year-round breeding, but even with people who use a breeding season, you might have a female that's ready to go, she needs to breed, and the male you had planned for her either just will not lock up with her no matter what you try, or he's not ready, he's not big enough, he's not sexually mature, and you're like, crap, what do I do? Well, you use a backup male, right? But again, you have to be super, super careful, because if you have now introduced 2 different males to this female, you need to know what genetically is possible. If you are breeding a bunch of recessive stuff where everything that's coming out could be hets, you're really going to struggle to know who was the father, right? And these can be extremely valuable snakes, so you don't want to sell them for $50 as a normal, but You might have to, because you can't guarantee which one was the dad unless you were super careful about who you bred and you know, oh, this male is guaranteed to pass on. And this is when supers are nice. You know, you have a super pastel pied, you know, a killer pied. Well, he's going to pass on pastel every single time. So as long as the other dad and the mom don't have pastel, you know any baby that is pastel came from that dad, right? So that, you know, supers are nice just as far as learning who is who, right? But that's the reason I pulled out this girl in the first place. She's a recessive. This is a lavender albino female. We bred her to a clown. All the babies are double hets. So we have to be super careful. If we breed her to another recessive male this year to get double hets of something else, we can't guarantee who the dad is if retained sperm happened. Now, because she laid eggs, my understanding is retained sperm is much less likely. It's more when they don't lay, but they did get bred a bunch, that there's a higher possibility of it, but it still is possible. So we got to be super careful. The only other thing I wanted to say real quick, there's a million ways to do this, so it doesn't matter if you follow our way or not. We tend to put a male in with a female for 3 days, and then take him out for at least 3 days, usually more. That's just what we do. We put him in for 3 days, then we take him out. If he locks up on the first day, we can take him out by the second day. So we're cutting a day off of the schedule. But really, a lot of people, they'll put him in, and if they don't lock up within the first 6 hours, they're like, oh, this male's not going to breed her this time around, and they pull him. We have had males go 2.5 days without any interest at all, and then suddenly they go and lock up the female in the last half of the third day. Happens to us quite regularly, in fact. So we're going to keep them in for 3 days unless they lock up right at the beginning. Then we might pull them early if they finish, right? And then we give them at least 3 or 4 days rest, offer a meal, especially to the little males that really need the meal, right? And that's our schedule. It works for us, but there's so many ways to do that. I would never say this is the only way to do it, or even that it's the best way to do it. That's just what we do, and we like it. It works for us. And that is all. That is my comprehensive as possible, but I'm sure there's a lot of things I missed. Advice on breeding ball pythons. I know that there's things that I missed. I'm thinking of them right now, but this video needs to end. Maybe we'll have a part 2 at some point. But thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, we're the Reptile Bar.